I was maybe 7 the first time it happened. I never remembered falling asleep. Only waking up in a dream where I could see my scythe lying in bed, blankets curled just beneath my chin. But it wasn't from my eyes. I was floating, high, near the ceiling, like a security camera bolted into the corner of the room. No warmth, no breath, just the faint hum of the digital clock and that distant sense of wrongness. The air up there was heavier, cold, wet, like fog without form. I tried to move, to swim down into myself, but I was paralyzed. All I could do was turn my head, slowly, left to right. Everything else was locked in. Even in the dream I knew I was dreaming. That made it worse. The first thing I always noticed was the clock, its red digits ticking backward. Tick, tick, tick. Reversing time like some broken reel. The realization brought a spike of nausea, a subtle panic. Then I'd see them, crayon drawings, taped on my dresser, the wall, even the closet door. Primitive, childlike, stick figures holding hands beneath a blue-roofed house. The same small figure always stood slightly apart, smaller than the rest. Me. But I had no memory of drawing them. I didn't draw, ever. That wasn't something I did. The drawings weren't the only wrong thing. There was a toy train, red and blue, old and chipped. My favorite, once, but I'd lost it years before. In the dream, it sat in a different place each time. Near the bed, near the door. Once right beneath the floating version of me. It felt like it was following me. Always, the dream ended the same way. My head turning jerking, really toward the bedroom window. A compulsion, an invisible magnet pulling my attention. The blinds were up, the glass pane fogged slightly in the center. And then he appeared. A man, inches from the glass. Short, gray hair, pale. A long cut stretching across his left temple like a pink thread. His eyes locked onto the sleeping version of me in the bed below, and he didn't blink. Not once. He just stared. Then the scratching would begin. First soft, then urgent, then violent. Fingernails dragging across the window like dry branches on a windshield. He'd claw at it, like he was trying to slide it open from the outside. That's when I'd wake up. Sometimes in cold sweat, sometimes frozen in fear. Always staring at the same window. I'd get up. I had to. Whether I was shaking or numb or crying didn't matter. I'd check the glass for smudges, scratches, fingerprints. There was never... The 5th time I had the dream, I told my parents. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, legs swinging above the floor, staring down into a bowl of soggy cereal. My mom smiled softly, brushing it off. "Recurring dreams are common at your age," she said, sipping coffee. My dad added, "You know we're right down the hall if anything ever scares you, right?" I nodded. Pretended that helped. It didn't. That night, my dad took me outside in his slippers. The air was sharp and cold, the kind of cold that gets into your gums when you breathe. He led me around the side of the house, flashlight cutting through the dark like a blade. We stopped under my bedroom window. Nothing. No footprints in the dirt. No handprints. No claw marks. The glass was clean, untouched. Still, something settled in me that night. Not peace, just delay. The dreams paused. Not for good. Just long enough for me to lower my guard. 6 months later, it came back. The moment I entered the dream, I knew. The ceiling view. The reverse clock. The drawings. The toy train by the door this time, like it had crawled closer. But something was wrong. More wrong than usual. I couldn't place it at first. My pulse was already racing. My dream self twitching in place, unable to move beyond a slow turn of the neck. The sense of dread was thicker like syrup in my lungs. My gaze drifted left, toward the window, and then I saw it. It was open. Not cracked, not ajar. Wide, open. Cold air rushed in, whipping the curtains like silent flags. No glass to block it, just empty blackness beyond the frame. And yet, I was still stuck above the bed, frozen. I woke up the second my eyes locked onto the void outside, but I couldn't move. I lay there, paralyzed, body cemented into the mattress. Sleep paralysis, but it didn't feel passive. It felt orchestrated, as if the dream hadn't really ended, as if something had followed me back through the gate. The air in the room was frigid, not like winter chill. This was unnatural, like the breath of something ancient and buried now crawling through the crack in the window I was sure was still open. 5 minutes. That's how long it lasted. 5 minutes of absolute suffocating terror. My brain was screaming, my muscles weren't listening. I thought I could trick it. The dream. Every night before bed I'd force myself to think about it. Picture every detail. Memorize the sequence, the floating, the drawings, the backward clock, the train, the window. My logic was simple. If I expected it, maybe it wouldn't hurt me. It worked. Sort of. The next time the dream came, I was ready. Not calm, not brave, but prepared. I didn't panic. I didn't even check the window when I woke up. Eventually, I became desensitized, almost numb to it. But something lingered. A smell, maybe, like cold metal or the static before a thunderstorm. Still, I decided to bring it up again. To my parents, this time with details. I told them everything: the dream's structure, the drawings, the toy, the reverse clock, and the man. Especially the man. I described his face, his gray hair, his dead stare, the cut on his left temple. That's when they changed. Not dramatically, just a flicker. My mom's hand froze on the table. My dad's eyes locked on mine for a moment too long. "You said a cut?" he asked, interrupting. "Yeah," I said. "A scar or something. Right here." I pointed to my temple. They exchanged a look. One of those silent conversations adults have when they think you're not watching. "What is it?" I asked. "Nothing," my mom said too quickly. "Just... dreams are weird." They brushed it off. But I knew there was something else. 3 days later, they sat me down. No build-up, no drama. Just a quiet moment in the living room. Evening light casting long shadows through the blinds. "We wanted to tell you something," my mom said. She did most of the talking. "When I was very young to remember, there was a man who used to look after me sometimes. His name was Brian. Not a real uncle, but that's what they called him. Uncle Brian. A friend of my dad's from college. He was around a lot when I was a baby. Babysitting, playing, reading me to sleep. But something happened. They didn't say what, just that it was bad. A falling out. And my dad told Brian never to come near us again. Especially not me. That was it. Except one thing. Brian had a scar. A noticeable one, on his left temple. Later that night, after my mom had gone to bed, my dad lingered in the living room. I stayed too. Something about the silence between us felt thick, like he wasn't done. After a while, he spoke. His voice was low. "Careful. I think those dreams are your brain's way of processing something. Something from when you were too little to remember, but not too little to feel." He told me how close I'd been to Brian, how I used to cry when he left, how I wanted him to read me to sleep instead of my own parents. There was a connection there, buried deep in the soil of my mind, like a rusted key I couldn't find. "Maybe," my dad said, "you remembered the scar because you saw it, not in a dream, for real, when you were a baby." That terrified me in a way nothing else had. Not the dreams, not even the man at the window. Because if he was right, then maybe it was Brian. But I couldn't remember him. Not a single image, not a voice, nothing. It was like he never existed except for that man behind the glass, the drawings, the train, the icy air curling around my neck. I tried to move on. What else could I do? Months passed. I kept to myself. The dreams came back, but sparingly once or twice that year. Weak echoes of the original nightmares. Familiar, but dulled. I thought maybe that was it. The end of it. I was wrong. Year 4. That's when everything turned. It was late. Cold. I'd had the dream again. Everything identical, almost nostalgic in its terror. Until I woke up and saw movement. Not in the dream. In real life. Outside the window. A flicker. Just a flicker. But I know what I saw. A shadow pulling back. A shape jerking just out of sight, like someone had been watching and bolted when I stirred. Panic didn't rise. It exploded. I screamed, louder than I ever had in my life. My parents came running. My dad tore outside in bare feet. My mom wrapped her arms around me so tightly I couldn't breathe. I was shaking, not crying, just trembling, like something vital in me had snapped. My dad came back 10 minutes later, quiet. He knelt beside me and whispered something to my mom. Then they called the police. I never heard sirens. I never saw the car. I never saw any lights. But the next morning, my dad admitted something. I saw footprints, he said. Faint. Right below your window. I asked him if he thought it was Brian. He shook his head slowly. No, it's not possible. He doesn't know where we live. We moved years ago. But he didn't sound convinced. I've always been a heavy dreamer. Most nights I fall asleep to noise podcasts, thunderstorms, YouTube videos, whatever helps shut off the world. It's not just background, it shapes my dreams. Fall asleep to chess commentary, I dream of boards and pawns. Space documentary? Floating through stars? It keeps the nightmares out. Except that night. The night I stayed at Duncan's, his parents were gone for the weekend. Classic sleepover setup. Me, Duncan, and Ian camped out in the living room, half buried in couches and blankets. No noise, no distractions, just the quiet hum of a dark suburban house. I fell asleep without sound. I woke in the middle of a storm. In my dream, I was on a sailboat, alone, somewhere in a churning, angry sea. Waves tossed me like a toy. The sky was a sick bruise of purple and gray. Wind howled like it was alive. But somehow, it didn't feel threatening. Not yet. Then, the boat lurched. Something cracked beneath. Water poured in like it had been waiting. I scrambled to plug the hole, using my jacket, my hands, anything. The panic was rising fast, like the ocean was learning how to drown me. And then a dolphin burst from the surface. Graceful. Sudden. It locked eyes with me and said in perfect human English, "Wake up." And I did, instantly. No grogginess, just sudden electrified awareness. Everything looked normal. Ian snored on the couch beside me. Duncan curled under a blanket, phone still glowing faintly in his hand. But something in the air was off. A sensation I couldn't name. My ears strained into the quiet, and then I heard it. A sound from upstairs. Rushing water. Not dripping, not gurgling, blasting. A faucet turned all the way on, full force. It didn't make sense. Duncan's parents weren't home. None of us had been up there. Still, like an idiot, I crept upstairs. Each step brought the sound louder, more defined. Definitely the bathroom at the end of the hall. Door cracked open, light on. And from where I stood, I could see the sink faucet turned fully to the right hot water gushing non-stop. Something twisted in my stomach. This wasn't a leak. Someone had turned it on. I approached the door, slowly, step by step. Then I stopped. There were blind spots in that bathroom. Corners. A shower curtain. Anywhere someone could be crouching, waiting. I couldn't move. I backed away, then turned and bolted. Ran downstairs. Shook Duncan awake so hard his pillow flew off. There's someone upstairs. That woke him up. Duncan didn't hesitate. Still groggy, still barefoot. He followed me upstairs, a baseball bat in one hand and phone in the other. The hallway was quiet except for the water still screaming from the faucet. The light beneath the bathroom door was pale and flickering, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to stay on. We reached the door. He gave me a quick look, then pushed it open. He stepped inside, and the world exploded. A figure launched out from behind the curtain. Heavy, fast, and violently tackled Duncan sideways with enough force to slam both of them into the wall. I only had a second to see him clearly. Hoodie, gloves, face partially covered, and in his hand, PVC pipe, about 2 feet long. He swung it down. Duncan caught the first hit with his arm, but he was going down fast. I didn't think. I lunged, slammed into the attacker with everything I had. We crashed into the tile floor, all limbs in chaos. He was stronger than either of us, but Duncan recovered fast. Together, we wrestled him, trying to hold him down. For a moment, we had him. Then he thrashed free, shoved us aside like we were paper, and sprinted for the stairs. By the time we reached the porch, was gone. Just vanished into the night. The police came 30 minutes later. No cameras, no real evidence, just muddy boot prints near the downstairs window which had been left unlocked. They called it a burglary attempt. Said it was probably random. Some desperate guy hoping the house was empty. But that never sat right with us. Burglars don't turn on faucets. Burglars don't hide in bathrooms. Burglars don't set traps. No, this felt different. This felt personal. Later that week, Duncan told me something that chilled me to my core. Whoever broke in might have known his parents were out of town. Might have thought Duncan would be alone. And if I hadn't stayed over? If that dolphin hadn't told me to wake up? I would have walked into that bathroom alone. Bonnie's parents were out of town. Anniversary getaway. 2 nights. One empty house in a quiet neighborhood where every lawn looked the same and every porch light flickered in unison. I showed up around 8 with snacks, movies, and the vague thrill of breaking a rule. Her room was upstairs, 2nd floor, with a window that faced the woods. Beyond that, nothing. Just trees and blackness so thick it pressed against the glass like breath. By midnight, we were asleep. I didn't remember drifting off, only waking. Suddenly, slam. A door downstairs. Loud, angry, final. Then came the footsteps fast, pounding up the staircase. I sat up in bed, heart racing, ready to move, to fight. But something held me. Not fear, not logic. Something else. A glow. Yellow. Faint. Leaking under the door. A strip of light, thin as a knife's edge. I stared at it, locked in. The room darkened around me, like everything but that line was bleeding into shadow. My vision tunneled. My body froze. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Then came the voices. One at first. A woman. Her tone venomous. Insulting everything about Memi, face, my choices, my fears. Then she dug deeper. Past the surface. She knew things. Things I'd never told anyone. Not even Bonnie. Secrets I had buried so far down, I'd forgotten them myself. Her voice became 2, then 5, then dozens. A chorus of contempt. 100 versions of me, dragged into light and flayed open. I couldn't take it. I threw off the covers, ran for the door, and yanked it open. Darkness. Instant and complete, like the house had been erased. The voices vanished, the air turned cold. Not room temperature cold graveyard cold, like the walls were breathing frost. I stumbled back, collapsed into the bed, and woke up, except I didn't. I was still dreaming. I just didn't know it yet. I sat up slowly, heart pounding, the phantom frost still clinging to my skin. Bonnie lay beside me, breathing slow, deep. I told myself it was over. I was awake. But when I turned toward the door, that same strip of yellow light was there. Identical. Exact. A perfect replica from the dream I thought I'd left behind. I didn't move. I couldn't. Until I heard it again. Slam. That door downstairs. Those same frantic footsteps, charging up the stairs, the dream looping itself in real time. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would end, praying I'd wake up for real this time. But the footsteps stopped, right outside the bedroom. The voices started again, lower now, whispered, meaner, more specific. I couldn't take it. Again, I jumped from the bed and yanked the door open, only for the same black nothingness to swallow me whole. I stumbled, cold wind biting my face, lungs tightening like I'd fallen underwater. I clawed back toward the bed, dove under the covers, pulled them over my head like a scared child, and then I woke up. I think. Bonnie stirred beside me, mumbling something soft before turning over. I sat up, disoriented, but functioning, breathing. But when I looked at the door, that strip of light was still there. I blinked. Once, twice, still there. And then I heard footsteps. Not in the dream, downstairs. Right now. Soft. Measured. Someone was inside the house. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and called the police. Whispered what was happening. Locked the bedroom door. Woke Bonnie gently, hand over her mouth to keep her from screaming. She didn't. She understood. We sat in silence, frozen in that dim room, waiting for any sound. 20 minutes passed. Then came the crash. Front door kicked open. Flashlight sweeping. When we emerged, 2 men were cuffed and being loaded into a patrol car. Mask wearing, gloved, burglars. The police said they saw a Facebook post about the house being empty, but that wasn't what stayed with me. It was the dream, the voices, the strip of light, the exact sliver I'd seen in my nightmare down to its shape, its warmth, its unnatural stillness. How could I have seen it? I was lying down, facing away from the door, and yet I'd conjured it in perfect detail. That line of light, it's still in my head, always there. Even when I blink, even in the dark, it doesn't go away. And now, I'm not sure it ever will.